Okay. Well, hello everybody, and hello to Faye Victor. We have just watched Faye's unbelievable solo performance entitled "Black is Beautiful." First of all, I want to thank you for that. Just unbelievable set.
Oh,
It
wow.
just it reminded me of the old times. You know, you and I go back a little ways, back to New York, and just
Yeah.
on Mondays I got to hear you and hang out with you a little bit, and the Vision Festival we missed this year, so
I
it was really
know.
fantastic to hear you and feel your spirit even through the ether. So thank you so very much for that. And for the sentiment that Black is beautiful, because it so very much is. But I think, um, what you're saying is so necessary and so needed at this moment when we are so focused on all of the suffering and all of the difficulty and all of the problems and all of the, strife and all of that.
Yeah.
It's very right and high time that we focus on those things, and that so many more people get focused on those things. But we cannot forget that Black is beautiful, that there's so very much more
Yeah.
to Black people and the Black community and the Black experience that has much more to do with celebration and triumph and victory and coming together as a community. And so I just want to thank you so much for reminding us of that.
Oh, well, my to say my pleasure is maybe a little strange, but yeah, it was my pleasure to share to try to share that perspective, in various ways, like not in the super. I tried to do it in kind of different ways, but yes, to try to share that um we have given so much. You know, we have given so much, and we have so much to be proud of as a just as a community and as a people for not only what we have managed to accomplish, but what we have managed to accomplish through while at the same time, having to accommodate, white supremacy.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of, you know, you have a way of delivering that message that is always so powerful and always so effective. And obviously, for centuries, and particularly, over the last half century in jazz, Black music has been used as this unbelievably potent force for political awakening.
Hmm.
And so I kind of wanted to ask you, like, especially like now in this political moment, um, how do you see that relationship between art and activism? As long as I've known you, you've never sort of shied away from doing that work. I know some people um, aren't comfortable with that role. They're not comfortable with that relationship. They don't see themselves as as an artist, as a political activist or an agent for social change. But I know that you do, and you do that work so well. I wonder if you could just talk about that, your history with that, the present with that, how you feel about
Sure.
that role.
Well, first, I just want to say that I really appreciate you acknowledging that has been something that's been consistent in my work. Because I think that's very true. It doesn't always get acknowledged. Actually, it rarely does in my mind.
Hmm.
But so I really appreciate you acknowledging that. And as far as I'm concerned, especially if I'm writing, I have to tell the truth of the moment I'm in. I really feel like, it's just a kind of a sort of a philosophy like, okay, I'm an artist today. So I want to talk about life today and what I'm experiencing today. I mean, it doesn't always, certainly in the last few years, it's been extreme. It has been far more political, especially since this administration. But it's not always political. It can be about other observances, and just in normal life. So, but certainly in this moment, there is not. I mean, there's other things to talk about, but um, it has to be talked about. It has to
Yeah.
be. And I didn't want to talk about the things that everyone else is discussing because that's already getting discussed. Also, I'm not sure if this is, but I feel like I have to say this. Um, I don't pity the fact that maybe that's not the right word to use. Let me just say this. Um, I have always been proud of being Black, right? So it was never, I didn't have to learn. I was just always proud of it. And proud of the culture that I come from, and proud of the people that I come from. And so it's never, that was not something for me personally that I had to kind of figure out. And I sometimes I feel like I want to just talk about how one this is just a wonderful experience, and for those who don't get it, well, that's too bad. But um, but for everyone else who feels that that's different, or sees himself living a different experience, I feel, no matter what may happen to me, and I'm not trying to sort of negate or to diminish or mitigate, like, what, even if something violently horrible happened to me, I would still be happy that I went through this life as a black woman. So, and maybe that's a heavy thing to say, but that's just it. And I think it needs to be said.
Say it.
I think we're at this moment where we kind of have to stop acting like, we just have to say, if we feel proud in our blackness, we just have to say it, and that's how I feel about it.
Thank you
And I'm
so much.
fortunate to come from people that honor that and feel like that, and so yeah, so doing a show like this is like, okay, so we need to talk about, on top of all the pain that we're suffering going through, and we know that, well, that is, we also need to talk about how we have triumphed throughout that pain, because if you talk to people that are much older, they will say this is not new, and we have been there before, and we have beat them before, and we've kept going. So, you know.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It occurred to me when I was listening to that, the way that you kind of just kind of hone in on the details of what the experience is just remarkable, but just kind of make it so, just kind of relatable. You know, I remember when one of the first times I got to hear you perform, you were doing the Kaiso stories.
Yeah.
That
Pesos
was,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, and it was all about Trinidad and your background with Trinidad. And then it occurred to me, because there's like this long history and background of, like, Trinidadian music and queso and calypso,
Yeah.
that is really politically engaged and kind of brings politics to into just daily musical and creative experience,
Yeah.
and just kind of your ease with that. I wonder if that kind of comes out of that heritage or that experience. I mean, is that
That's,
something?
that's a great question. And it's funny. For years, I didn't think it did, and now I start to see that it does. Especially, I just talk really quickly, but I'm developing a project called Mutations for Justice, big project, that actually we launched at the Vision Festival in 2018, and it's actually a rolling diary of this current administration. And the pieces they're all original compositions, but they're all meme like. They're all meme like. They're real small. Sometimes, some are a bit more expansive than others, but the idea is they're meme like, and they're repetitive, and that they're developed through improvisation. And I realized while I was writing that piece, especially when I was because it's 45. Well, there will be 45 in total. I'm up to number 37 now. But I realized when I got to like piece like 15 or 16, I realized it was almost like a Calypsonian's role, where you are the newspaper of the people, where you basically are sharing information so that that you feel people need to know, and articulating it in a way that they can hear it, and take it in, and understand it. And what's really great about that history is that, well, certainly not now anymore so much, but certainly when at the height of sort of classic calypso, the 40s and 50s and 60s, you had these mass camps. The calypsonians would come and sing and perform, and the audience, and they had to connect with the audience would boo them, those stuff, if they weren't, if they weren't like clear, or like this, or if the message was like BS or whatever. No, it was deep. It's like you had to really work for that. You had to really
Yeah,
work for that attention, and work for that, for people to like believe you. And it was an interactive experience. And what's even deeper about it is, like, the government was setting censors down to hear what these calypsonians were sharing with the people.
yeah,
So, I mean, so it's like it's a really amazing history. And I expect, so now more and more I realize that is part of the idea of just sort of delivering a message, and not, not. I mean, obviously I have a point of view, but not so much getting mixed up in all that, but just more about, here. This is, you need to know this,
yeah,
and I try to figure out a way to articulate it where I feel it communicates well, and that's always a process.
yeah. it's so effective and it's so necessary, and there are a few people that do that as well as you do. I just it's always wonderful to experience that. One of the things that I remember from your piece, that it was so that people need to hear, just like you're saying, is jazz was built on the sound of Black women's voices.
Yeah.
And I was just struck by that. And I was struck by that because I know that, but still, we still need to hear it. We still need to hear it because it's like, for some reason, there's this discourse that gets rolling and like elides people. There's this, and it's so strange that that can happen unless you keep on saying that, right? And it's sort of like just it drew my attention not only to the fact, but to the fact that it needs to be said again.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's extremely important, and I thank you for bringing that to our into onto the top of our inbox.
Yeah.
Again, I appreciate it. And I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about that anymore, but I mean, the other thing is too that part of your advocacy work has been the We Have Voice Collective,
Mhm.
which really brought the issue of kind of justice and safety for women in the workplace in entertainment to our attention where it hadn't really been before, or at least in a way that it hadn't really been before. And I don't know if you want to talk at all about that or where things are with that. But that's been an important, kind of wake up to us at Elastic and say, hey, we have to pay attention. And there's things that a lot of us are men, we don't really, have that perspective.
Well, I
So,
mean, I'm happy to talk about it a little. I mean, it's we're still a collective of the 14. There's 14 of us, and we, when there's an opportunity, obviously with COVID, there's been to do roundtables and discussions around the code of conduct for the performing arts. We do so, and that also came out again, as we talked about, because first it started with an open letter. It was an open letter that was launched 2017, December 2017. We asked people to, so we had a bit of a manifesto, not a bit, it was a manifesto that people signed on to. And then we realized as a collective that actually needs to go deeper than that. And that, there's been sort of systems in place that haven't sort of acknowledged our own safety. And so we took it upon ourselves to figure out how to articulate that. And one of the things that it became really important to articulate was the fact that as artists and especially as performers, our workspace is fluid. Our workspaces change, and which is not the same if you go to an office every day and there's an HR person or HR office where you can, where it's just, and not only do our workplaces change, but also the the power dynamics can change and can shift around depending on where you are. For example, okay, now I'm a professor at the new school, so I'm a part-time faculty. So if I say connect with a student and I invite him to play in my band, let's say, and I invite that student to my home to rehearse, well, now we're in a different place, but the power dynamic is exactly the same.
yeah,
So all those kinds of acknowledgments and understanding, and our aim is to create a nuanced document to not about this victim against perpetrator idea, but basically just to empower anyone and everyone that may not have the language to articulate things that have happened to them, or
yeah.
things they're feeling, or things they've seen, etc.
Yeah, we found it extremely helpful. So I just want to, thank you for doing that work on top of all the dynamic creative work that you're doing and all the teaching that you're doing. I just don't know how you can do all of that at the same time and just, be so remarkable about it. I mean, another thing, I don't know how, there's just so many things I want to talk to you about. We only have a couple minutes, but, now that you're a professor, one of the most remarkable things about experiencing your work is, first of all, you have like this ability to kind of be like a vocalist in the front of the band and deliver the song like a lot of vocalists do. But
Mhm.
then you also have this ability to sort of be like a kind of cold, evil, like member of an ensemble that includes instrumentalists and maybe other vocalists in a way that a lot of, I think, a lot of other vocalists may not feel comfortable with, right? Kind of just being one among a number of instrumentalists. And I think that's one of the things that makes your work so unique is being kind of comfortable in that role. And part of it to me seems like your ability to kind of like use your voice in ways that I know I never heard anyone else do and those
Uh-huh.
extended techniques.
Mhm.
And so, I was wondering, like, is that part of what you are teaching? Is how people can develop that and develop those skills? Um,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, which is awesome. It's something I've always wanted to do. I mean, it took a I mean, we don't have the time to get into even begin to get into how I managed to figure all of this out. But
yeah,
I have wanted to be in a position to articulate these ideas to other vocalists. So now I'm in my fourth semester at the new school, and so I've and I teach a course. I teach what's called I teach vocal performance five, which is the last tier of the vocal performance for undergrad. But I've been given a lot of autonomy to organize the course the way I see fit. So I have this sort of trajectory where we kind of because everybody's in jazz language. So we start in jazz language and then and I gradually pull them out throughout the semester. And it's been really effective. I mean, it's a lot. It's pretty weird to them at the beginning, but they get into it, and I really figured out how to you know I really figured out what I really am happy about and why they kind of at least trust me and go along with my these crazy at first for them is super crazy.
yeah,
um is that I basically tell them that that it's a tool that it's tools that they can or cannot or you can choose to use or not to use. It's
yeah,
about just exploring some things and also make it clear that once they participate and engage, they'll always do okay grade wise. Like I mean, but if you say to me, I don't want to, then that's absolutely no. But if
yeah,
you engage and then you say, I really can't stand it, to me that's valid and that's honest. And then there's a lot of things. So there's other things to engage with. So as long as and what has happened with that is they feel really comfortable. And the more comfortable they feel, then the strengthening they explore more and they take more risks. And what's at least so far, most of the students have really gotten a lot out of using their voices in this way. And they just had no clue that it was even possible to even think about opening up their instruments in this way. And I also tell them that I would love for everybody to be like a big improviser, but that's actually not the point. The point is to figure out how these tools can make you a more expansive musician.
yeah. That's so outstanding. Um, I just wish we could hang out and talk some more. And I think we're probably gonna have to.
We're gonna have to
I
make
think we're
another.
gonna have to,
Yeah.
but I think we do have to kind of leave it there
Yes. Okay.
because of the interest of time, and
Yes.
But I just want to thank you so much, not only for your performance, but for taking this moment to talk to me. I know everybody appreciates getting a little bit of a window into where all of that comes from, and some of the, some of the philosophy and some of the history and some of the other
Oh,
materials
yeah.
that is behind all of that. So thank you
Well,
very much.
thank you, and I want to thank you. It was great to see you and chat with you, Adam. And the last thing I want to say, if I'm allowed, is I am going to have a band called Sound Noise Funk, and just to kind of continue the whole political thing, we're bringing out a record October 31st, right before Election Day, called "We've Had Enough."
Yes, we have.
The ESP disc. So I just wanted you to know that. And I don't know if you
Yeah.
know who that band is.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that band's ridiculous. Say who's in it?
Joe Morris on guitar, Sam Newsom, soprano saxophone, and Reggie Nicholson.
Yeah,
Chicago.
yeah.
Reggie
You
Nicholson,
can't you can't miss this. You can't miss this group, everybody. So please get that record because we've had enough, and
we
that's
had
all
enough.
that there is to say.
Yeah.
Well,
Adam, so great to chat with you. And I look forward to checking out the music and the shows and tonight and tomorrow.
yeah. Thank you so very much, Faye.
Okay.
I'll talk to you
Take
pretty
care.
soon.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.